and really the end of Egyptian home rule for a massive period of time, almost 3,200 years. So during the New Kingdom, when we get to about 1200, the Sea People, who we've talked about a little bit in the past, will enter into the picture, and they're going to invade all of the Mediterranean. They're going to wipe out the Mycenaeans, the Minoans, who we'll be talking about, the Hittites. They're going to damage the Assyrians, and they're going to fight to a draw with the Egyptians. Now, on top of that, we have Sudan, this area, the Kush, this area south of Egypt will rise in power. And they're going to take advantage of this whole situation with the Sea People so that by 1000 BC, the Egyptian Empire will be shattered and the Kush Empire will replace it. And eventually, the Kushites by 200 BC don't even care for Egypt and turn south to develop their empire. But during this Kushite rule, we see the Kushite rulers from, again, south of Egypt, taking the title of Pharaoh. They don't want to destroy Egypt. They want to become Egyptian. They want to become Pharaoh. We'll see the same thing at the end of Rome. And we even see these Kushite rulers being depicted as sphinxes. And by the time we get to about 1000 BCE, that is the last time the Egyptians will rule over themselves until 1956. So an incredible period of time where they're not going to be in charge of themselves. They're always being colonized or ruled over by someone or other. We see a lot of different foreign occupants come to rule until the until the Greeks show up in 332 BCE. Egypt will be conquered by the Macedonian Greeks under Alexander. And when he dies, he puts into place a group called the Ptolemies, Ptolemy, who will rule Egypt up until about 30 BCE when Cleopatra dies and Rome will take over. But on the positive side, the Ptolemies will actually encourage the Egyptians to build new temples, to try and get their culture to flourish. They want the Egyptians to be Egyptian. They don't want them to become Greek as such, because there's no status in that. Then you're just ruling over another Greek colony. They want to rule over Egypt. So again, they're trying to be Egyptian as much as possible. And what we're seeing here is the Temple of Horus. This temple has this massive stone facade with these sunken reliefs carved into them. Now, those sunken reliefs, again, are not of the skill and quality that we see in the Old Kingdom or early in the New Kingdom, but they're there, they're being developed. And they're trying to glorify the gods, in this case, Horus and Hathor. So the Egyptians are the first to give us their everyday life through art. They're also incredibly mystical in the way that they depict themselves. And part of the reason that we know so much about them is because they're in the desert. We have hundreds of thousands of parchments that have survived. In the Old Kingdom, the Egyptians were very powerful. We see the development of the pyramids. In the Middle Kingdom, they're not very powerful. They'll fall relatively quickly. In the New Kingdom, they're very powerful, but much less formal in terms of their art forms. And after about 1000, they're constantly under foreign rule. So that brings us to the end of the Egyptians. Next up, the ancient Aegean.